Look at you.
Yeah, that's.
Did you wear that one day?
I did.
I'm coming. Good girl. I'm gonna come up and roll and love the burrito.
Yes, I can see you.
Great. We can wait a couple more minutes.
I didn't think you guys wanted to watch me or hear me eat, so I'll be on mute for a minute or two.
Sure. Who's PK?
Paul Kelly, hey, how are you,
Oh,
man?
Paul, hi. How's it going?
Yeah. Quite all right. That's my standard computer setup. Well, whatever. I don't need to change it. Sorry, I've missed the last couple.
No problem. Might switch to a headphone actually. How do I choose video filter? I'm just going to leave and come right back. I just want to change my sound. Okay, I think we can jump in and start now. We've got a few new people this week, so maybe we can get the new people to introduce themselves first before we go ahead, and just let us know, like, if you're training for anything and maybe what your experience is. So let me see, Allison. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks
How are you?
thanks for joining us.
Yeah, sorry I missed the last couple. I
Mm.
can stay for a short while tonight.
No problem.
So I'm Allison. I live in Philadelphia, kind of center city area, but moving up north a little bit soon. I just did Escape the Cape this past weekend. It was awesome. Met some PTC members there. And then now training for New Jersey State Triathlon.
Great. Alison, I just worked out. I got your wetsuit.
Oh, you did?
Thanks very much.
Wonderful.
Thanks very much for that.
You're welcome. I've had it for so long.
I thought,
I
now,
kept trying
where do
to
I know
wear
that
it,
name
but it
from?
just was
Yeah.
just a little too small. And I was like, I
Yeah.
can't do this anymore.
Yeah, my wife's been away on business and she just came back about 15 minutes ago. So I'll get her to try it on later when she's free. But thanks
Awesome.
very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Paul, can you introduce yourself? You're not a new member, are you?
No, that's all right. I've been around since it started, basically, but admittedly had a very long gap. So trying to get off the wagon, I guess you would say,
Yep.
and back to it this year. I've done a bunch of little 5Ks with a family. I can't remember if I've done any shorter triathlons, but I signed up for Maine this year as kind of the carrot at the end of the stick to make myself actually do more than, a typical summer, which is not much.
Jumping in if everybody else.
Yeah, so we'll try. The running hasn't been great. The other training's okay, and so we'll just go and we'll have fun and try not to worry about what people think I look like in a tri-suit.
Awesome. And are you a mentor or a mentee? You're a mentor, right?
I signed up to help as a mentor, so it's Cam Smith and myself are helping Bob Huntowski.
Yep.
I've only had limited conversation or contact with him so far, but certainly made myself available. And if anything comes up, happy to help him out.
Awesome. Yeah, and Elise, are you there?
Hey guys, sorry, I am finishing up a run.
Sure. Do you want to just?
Yeah, can I hop back on in like 30 seconds? I'm on my last set.
Yeah, no problem. So, and of course, Ed's there again from San Francisco again, I think, same as last week. So this week we're going to look at swimming, I thought, because so we'll get the next 3 weeks, we're going to cover the 3 disciplines, the next 3 sessions. So swimming, then biking, and running. Obviously, if I got Allison's wetsuit, I'm guessing you have some swim experience in the try. Elise, we can check in and see. Oh, Kyle's jumped on now. Hi, Kyle.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good. Kyle, we're just starting with swimming. Maybe we'll start for you. Have you? Big question here is: have you done open water swimming before?
That is a no with capital N-O.
Yep. Because you've done, obviously, you did very well in the duathlons. Do you plan to do swimming this year?
I do, yeah. Aiming for getting comfortable enough with open water come like the end of the season. Transitioning out of pool swimming. Yeah, I'm aiming for it. It's a jump for sure. Don't come from a swimming background whatsoever. Scared to even think about and everything. I was just talking to a couple swimmers now at a place I go figure teach swim lessons at. They're even like, yeah, no, I'm okay in the pool, but if I'm in the pond, like I'm a good swimmer and everything, but not for me type of stuff. But I'm still looking forward to getting to that point.
Great. John is here as well. How about John?
Mostly pool. I've done a couple sprints, and every time I get into the open water, my swim just goes to crap because it's just like whatever. And at the time, it's just survival mode. So hopefully, working on more form and getting comfortable and open.
Great. And Allison?
I did a couple of triathlons like a decade ago and did 1 or 2 open water swims, but I'm mostly historically a pool swimmer. So, the anxiety of swimming in open water really pushes me through.
Yeah. Well, for Elise, I'll just let you listen in for now. So feel free to chime in at any time when you're free. Maybe for the experienced guys, Ed and Paul, how are you coming back to open water now? Like, are you comfortable swimmers or?
I'm hoping I'm a comfortable swimmer. I haven't been back but once this season, and nothing open water. I'm just hanging my hat on the fact that I'm allowed to wear a wetsuit at Maine, and it's downriver, and I'm just going to finish and save my legs as much as I can and enjoy the day. This will not be a competitive event. This will be, get through the swim, have a fun bike ride, and then just kind of survive the run. But I don't have a lot of advice. I used to go to a bunch of master's programs and do all the technical swim training, but I think I was just more a natural athlete than a natural swimmer necessarily. But just with laps in the pool and time, I was able to get there.
Yep.
Some days I was, at sprints, I would just dart out to get out in front of everybody as quickly as possible, and then just try and hold on, because I didn't like the congestion and the feet and all that other stuff. So in the events where I didn't feel as strong, I would just stay wide and say it's going to take me a little bit longer to get there. But it depends on the length of the race. It depends on the congestion, whether it's a mass start or a wave start or whatever. But the hard part is just getting through those first 2-3 minutes, and then just letting your heart rate calm down and just getting into some pace.
Just
maybe finding feet, but maybe just kind of getting in your own zone wherever, if you're further to the outside. Sorry.
Just before you jump to Ed, one thing you touched on there, you said Maine's going to be a wetsuit swim. I haven't looked into it. Is that like a given, or?
I guess it's not
are you just hoping?
I think I heard from history it might not be to the point where the competitive people will be able to wear a wetsuit, but I think it should be in that range where you can, but just can't get an award. That's last I looked, but it's been a while.
Sure.
Hey, I signed up for Maine in the assumption it wasn't going to be hot like Eagle Man. So,
right.
Yeah,
it better work out.
I know nothing about Maine. I've never been there in my life, or been
It's a
anywhere
lot
near the
further
place.
north than it is here. So
Yeah. Joy, are you around at the moment?
Hi, Joy.
Hi.
I have point like
sounds-
2 to go. I'll be on in a minute.
Sure. Okay, so I wanted to just preface this with people's experience. So, because I just wanted to give you guys an overview of where to swim. So Ed's kind of experience, I certainly know, but I did some research today, and these options I'll put in a email later, and on probably, what day is it today? Thursday, probably next Tuesday, because I'm going away, and to summarize. So feel free to jump in if there's others, or I've got these details wrong, but you can do. There's a place called Blue Marsh Creek, which is out by Lancaster, past Lancaster Way. They set up an open water swim course, and it's completely free. The cycling is also really good around there, and you can do trail running as well. So it's a pretty good, if you want to do a long session for the day, you can head out that way. For me, I live in the city. It takes me, I think, about an hour and a half to drive there. So I try and get my money's worth when I go out there. I'll do a long bike ride as well, and then go and do some swimming. The other one that a lot of people in the club will mention is French Creek at Norristown, which is $15 a session. That's French Creek Tri Club runs that. It's on Trooper Road. It's about 40 minutes drive. You can almost ride your bike there as fast as you can go in the car because of traffic. The other one that was Medford Lakes is $17 to swim there. The problem with that we mentioned in week 1 of this Spark is you need the USAT memberships. So if you don't have USAT membership, you've got to pay extra to swim at Medford Lakes. Then there's another one called Marsh Creek, different from Blue Marsh Creek, that's run by Mid-Atlantic Multisport. And checking on their website, they're $160 for a season pass. They don't currently offer individual passes, but they say they do release them throughout the season.
Yeah, when they do release them, they're pretty expensive. They were like $35-40 last year. Like, they were trying to encourage people to do the season pass.
Yep. And the final one I had that Leslie actually introduced me to a couple of years back, for if anyone's doing an ocean swim, is an Ocean City swim club in New Jersey, is $20 for a drop in. So you can go out to the Ocean City boardwalk, and they have a lifeguard assisted swim out there for $20. So
I've done that one a few times in the past several years. From Philly on a, early in the morning. I think it's on a Sunday morning, I think.
Yep.
No traffic. You can shoot right down there. You're on the beach. They got buoys set up and stuff, and it was a nice thing to do. I even did it even though I wasn't doing an ocean swim.
Yep.
I personally, those lakes, Medford Lakes, I feel like as it gets warmer in the summer, they're very organic, and once they get warm, I don't really like swimming in them anymore. But because I get like nasal infections, so I tend to stay away from them.
I did have a few notes, and one of my notes for that free one, Blue Marsh Creek, was when I swam out there last year, somebody died on the same day. And people have died there before because around the edges of the lake have reeds that grow underneath the water. And I think they kind of knot together, and people get caught up in these reeds if you swim too close to the edges in certain parts, so that they've had a couple of deaths. And I was quite shocked to realize someone died when I was there. And also, as Ed kind of hinted at, they have an issue with algae. So a lot of these places sometimes shut if the algae levels get too high. So you got to check that before you go as well. Any other experiences that anyone wants to share with these venues?
The river, I guess the French Creek River Swim that's in Norristown, they have them several days a week. I think they do weeknights and also on the weekends. The issue with that is being a river swim, if there's a lot of storms and stuff like there was the other day, they might have to cancel either because the water flow is too high or if their water quality is not good. But when it's not that, and it's a really nice swim. I really like the water in the Schuylkill when it's clear and flowing calmly. So I swam there a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, that's my main open water, but two problems I would highlight with them is they have a really convoluted system to sign up for a swim. You've got to go to this run sign up, then you've got to go and find their link to go somewhere else to lock in a slot, and then if you change a slot, you've got to email them, and it's a lot of jumping around. And the other thing, like Ed mentioned, if not enough people sign up, they can sometimes cancel those sessions quite late, like the night before. For those of us that go to bed earlier, sometimes they make a decision at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. Oh, we're not swimming tomorrow. You don't find out until the morning.
The other thing I think that's good about that location is, I think once a month they do actual races on the course.
Yep.
So if you need to do like a true time trial, they'll actually run, I think like 1 lap or 2 lap or 3 lap races. And it's not a bad way to sort of simulate an actual race scenario, at least mentally, and maybe a little bit of physical of like how you would do it. So that's interesting if you have an opportunity, want to sort of get a race feel without doing a whole triathlon. You could sign up for the 800-meter swim or whatever and actually do a simulated race.
I did that a couple of years ago, and I was like, this is awesome. It was, you just go, I think it was like upstream, downstream. So you got like a little bit of both. And it was pretty cool. And I thought they had like, I think they had like food or something. They like make it like a nice little community with them afterwards. At least they did before COVID.
Yeah, I did their Olympic out at the actual French Creek. I think it was last year, and they put on a pretty good experience in terms. They have music and plenty of food and things like that. The other point I was going to just add to those before we move on was, if you're training for a specific event, it might be a good idea to consider what sort of open water swim it is. So, for example, I was doing Ironman Florida, which is in the Gulf. It has waves and things like that, and that was completely different to say French Creek, Norristown. So swimming in the river wasn't much of a benefit as I could have got from, say, going to Ocean City and doing a bit of swimming in the water. So when we swim at Maine, the club, a lot of people from the club are going to Maine. It's all downstream swim. So Norristown becomes more relevant then, and somewhere like Medford Lakes might be less relevant because there's next to no current there. Just some things to consider. The other options, of course, is indoor swimming. So I've listed YMCA gyms around the area have the pools. I think Ed mentioned in the Discord that Kelly Pool opens tomorrow. The big difference with Kelly Pool, I believe it's 50 meters, which I'll touch on shortly, but that's a big one. And then there's Masters programs. So the two that I know of in the area is the ones we've been talking about, French Creek. And there's also one called the Philadelphia Finns at Friends Select on the Parkway in the city. That's $170 for a quarter, or $550 a year, or $15 per session drop in. And they say, I didn't know this, but they say on their website they also swim at Kelly Pool, and they swim every day except Friday. And I believe you just pay the fee, and then you can go and swim as much as you like. And does anybody here swim in Masters classes?
I haven't long enough to offer any advice. It's been a while.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add was that they tend to give you a limited amount of coaching and advice and direction and so on, compared to, say, just going down the YMCA by yourself. So I don't think, I personally don't use them, because I don't like to swim other strokes. They always make you do backstroke or breaststroke or something like that. You never convince me I'm making use of my time doing that. But
some of the YMCA's, Matt, believe it or not, Christian Street used to do this, where they actually had sort of a organized coach swimming sessions, and it was geared towards, new to swimming triathletes like us. And before you moved here to the city, they used to do that, and it'd be like 5 or 6 people, and we get 2 lanes, and we get to do swim practices, and it was all about people trying to do triathlon. So we didn't do any of those other strokes. I think some of the other Ys in the area may still do sort of classes like that. I forget, they might call them like stroke clinics or swim clinics or something. But if you read their description, sometimes they'll say, perfect for triathletes or something like that. So something to consider if you just need some more structure to your swimming, and you don't have time or funds to have like a personal coach. Sometimes those group sessions will give you a little bit more coaching, but hopefully avoid doing butterfly, which I never wanted to do.
Yeah, and I think, because I think the point I wanted to emphasize there was that if you kind of suck at swimming and you feel that you do need coaching, it's Masters is probably not adequate enough to give you that coaching that you require. But if you can swim all right and you just want, after a couple of tips here and there, then it might be worth trying out.
Yeah, I used to swim in Masters a while back. I grew up as like a competitive swimmer, and it's much more geared towards workouts and competitive indoor swimming for sure. So they do oftentimes in special pools, like we'll have long course training, which is really great and would be great for triathlon training, but they have to have the availability of a long course pool. Another pool that has a 50-meter pool is the Croc Center in Germantown.
Oh yes, and there's also a Croc Center in New Jersey, isn't there?
I don't know.
Yeah,
But
in
it's
Camden.
a beautiful pool. I just don't know I don't know if anyone swam there or been a
gotta
member
add
there.
that
I don't
to
think
my
it's very
list.
expensive.
I think Leslie does
Yeah.
offer swimming there. The one in Camden. I think.
Yeah, so that was kind of leads into my next point, I guess, is you want to check what sort of swim you want to do, because most pools in the US tend to be 25 yards indoor, compared to European and, say, Australian pools that are 50 meters, compared to open water. So you get a very different workout from each one. And we've kind of had a lot of discussions in the Discord, periodically about where can we swim 50 meters, because like when I go back to my parents live in Australia, and when I go back and swim at their place, it's like I'm starting to learn to swim all over again. It's a big difference.
And is Lori Hug still involved?
Free open water. So. Go
Well,
ahead,
Laura,
sorry.
Ed can probably answer that the best.
Yeah, I cut Ed off. I was asking if Lori Hug was still involved with Germantown, those pools up in Germantown.
I think the answer to that is yes. I've seen last time I talked to her, I think she was still running classes up there.
She has some sort of affiliation with the club, doesn't she? Like she offers
club
coaching.
member. Yeah.
Yes. One thing I guess where the club has been a bit until recently certainly a bit weak, I guess, is a lack of affiliation with swimming coaches. So that Laurie is pops in and out every now and then to offer various services. The other option that a lot of people use is John Kenny from French Creek, that's been mentioned. I had some lessons with him, and the other one is
Mid-Atlantic, maybe.
yeah, Mid-Atlantic is another one, but I believe Mid-Atlantic is at Medford Lake, so you run into that USAT problem of not having.
Marsh. They're typically Marsh Creek. They're that direction because I know Bill's out in the Malvern area, and I was surprised he wouldn't offer us better discounts for club affiliation since he's been around forever as well. But you know, because you said they were a little bit pricey, but I think they do a good job with their workouts and their organization. I just don't know how regular they are. I haven't been out in 10, 12 years.
Yeah, and the other one that was my coach is Bernie Finch at Pro Swim in Mount something in New Jersey. I forget the name of it. It's near Camden. No, sorry, near Cherry Hill. And I actually got onto him because the coach organizes. The club organizes sessions through him. Joy, did you do one of those sessions last year?
No, that's in that's in the water, the pool thing, like the indoor. No, I would love to do one this time though, if we get another opportunity. I'm just due to a conflict, but I would.
Yeah, so periodically Quack advertises it. I think they need 4 or 6 people, something like that. They usually always get 8 or 10. He has one of those infinity pools, and you go out there and he just gives you some like he gives the group some instructions for swim. Then he spends about 5 or 10 minutes with each person and just films you and gives you some analysis and gives you some feedback and stuff like that. And then if you want to take it further, you can get private lessons from him as well. But that's all done in an infinity pool, which I guess adds another option to those ones we're talking about between the indoor and outdoor and open water.
If you're new to or so early in your swimming career and didn't learn to swim as a coached kid, I found if you can get one video class with one person who can tell you what looks right or wrong, I think it could really sort of make a step change in improving your form, just because it's really hard to what we think we're doing mentally is not what it looks like to when someone's watching you. And if they tell you to put your hand somewhere and you're like, I swear I'm doing that, and if they showed you in a video, you would be way off, right? So our instincts about what we look like and where we're reaching and where we're pulling generally sometimes is not what it actually looks like to everyone else. So I've done that a couple of times. I did do the infinity pool thing with Bernie Finch a couple winters ago with the club.
Oh yeah, I did the same session, I remember, with you.
Yeah. And I've done that before, and every time I've done it, it's been a step change where you immediately get something to think about and work on. And if you work on that and retain it, you've made a little incremental step change, and then you can go on with your fitness. But
maybe just a question for Alison, because you mentioned before you were a competitive swimmer earlier, and that usually is very distinguishable between triathletes. Is where 90% of them don't know how to swim, and the other 10% were elite high school swimmers. What is your attitude to swimming now now that you do it triathlon?
The swimming doesn't concern me at all. It's really just arm fatigue, like just getting your arms out of the water. But I typically do really, really well in the swimming and then get destroyed by everybody else on the bike. Like the swimming's such a short component time-wise compared to everything else that you could just crush the swimming, and then everybody else, if they're better and so much faster, they're going to do so much better. So
the poor highly trained swimmers, triathlons are not geared for them. So.
Does anybody, so moving on then, does anybody actually use or has used swim coaching before? No one?
So I did when I first, this was like 10 years ago when I first started doing triathlons, and I realized very quickly that I didn't have good swimming form. I felt comfortable in the water. I could ride waves, and I didn't think I was going to drown ever. I was totally confident, but I just didn't have any technique because I never learned to swim laps properly. So I hired a coach at the local Y for like 6 weeks to just help me get to the point where I could actually swim laps and breathe properly. The whole idea of breathing properly was foreign to me. once I got through all that, I didn't use that much coaching, but I did these clinics at the Y where we had sort of an instructor or facilitator that would give tips periodically. But mostly I've had periodic swim coaching, and I've used books and things for workout plans. And if I went to one of those classes, I would do whatever workout they gave us, but mostly it's just been like, paper plans, following a strategy, and occasionally getting tips from someone who can watch me.
Yep. Just to share my own experience, I started triathlon about 4 years ago, and I couldn't swim. Like I had a pool in my backyard growing up, and I could actually, I could play in the pool and I wouldn't drown, but I couldn't swim 25 yards. So I started from scratch, and I used the Y the first, a few lessons from there, and I think I was like 2.5 minutes per 100, and then I used online coaching from this Effortless Swimming, which is a pretty popular YouTube website, and that straight away cut my time from 2.5 down to 2 minutes per 100. And then I ended up getting some coaching from John Kenny, and I cut it a bit further to 150, and then I got coaching from Bernie Finch, and I got down to about, I think, a 135 per 100. So I hover around that now. I kind of felt that. So the unfortunate thing with swimming is that it's almost got a ceiling to it, and you have to spend money to get through that ceiling. I feel, I might be wrong in saying that, but the if you have running and cycling, it's you do more of it, you get better at it, but that's not necessarily the case with swimming. You can be flogging yourself 5 or 6 days a week in the pool and getting absolutely nowhere. All right, just a few minor things on gear that I thought we'll finish with before a little bit lighthearted, but at the end, wetsuits. The key thing for wetsuits is sleeved or unsleeved and thickness. So for those that have wetsuits, do you know what you use?
I only have a sleeved one. It's just the one that I've had forever and ever, and I don't use it all the time, but certainly we'll probably break it out for this one.
Yep.
I have the Xterra entry level sleeveless. They're $99 version.
The Vault.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I wanted. I was probably over fearful of shoulder restriction. These days, I hear people that have the sleeved ones say the design of them is so much better than it used to be. They really figured out how to do the thickness and stuff and flexibility in the areas where you need it. And I wouldn't be afraid to buy a sleeved one now. But back then, I was really nervous to have one. I didn't want any restriction.
Yep. The other big factor to consider is like usually come in either 3 mil or 5 mil thickness, where 5 mil gives you a lot more buoyancy. And I didn't realize this until my wife got a 5 mil wetsuit and I saw the difference to mine. It was quite a fair bit thicker. But the big factor with that is when you go to a race that's kind of borderline wetsuit legal, you're going to sweat a hell of a lot more in the 5 mil than the 3 mil. Okay, that's all I had to say. Does anyone want to add anything about swimming?
I would say, for swimming and wetsuits, the thing that I found is to make sure that you try the wetsuit on before you show up to the race, especially if you gained a few pounds. So I had to get, I have this beautiful sleeveless Xterra wetsuit that I bought that is 15 pounds, 10 pounds too small for me. So I had to go buy another wetsuit. And I didn't sell the Xterra one, which I haven't even worn yet. It's still in the box because I think that eventually I will potentially lose that. So, and then maybe I have a question for the group of like, what do you use? Like, what's your way of getting the wetsuit off? Like, what's your tips and tricks of, cutting down the transition time so that you're not spending 4 minutes trying to get out of the wetsuit?
I will absolutely not answer this because I'm terrible at getting my wetsuit off. So I'll leave it to the other Paul and Ed and
I'll give you my tips that I think I've acquired over the years. One is have it fully wet on the inside before you do your event. So if they let you get in the water before you start zipping it up, get in the water and fill the whole thing with water, right? Or if you have it on and before you fully zip it, try to get it filled with water, because then you'll have all that water against your legs and inside your body. I have a sleeveless, so what I usually will do is try to, get in the water and just pull the sleeve out, pull the chest away and let it fill up, right? If I remember to do it before I get out of the water, which is rare, but I would actually try to get one last gulp before I got out of the water and pull that in there. So that's one thing. And if I had to, if there's no way to get in the water beforehand, sometimes I would carry an extra water bottle with me to the start or in transition area, and I would literally like try to spray it down with water on the inside before I did it. The other thing I would say is there's products like Tri-Slide and even the Body Glide sort of stuff. I put all that around like my lower calves and ankles, especially around my ankles and stuff. And if you have that and you get water on it, a lot of times it makes it slip right off a lot easier. The third thing I would say is most of the wetsuits, the very bottom of them, you can cut them, you can make them shorter. And so that if the bottom is super constricted, if you come up like 1.5 inches maybe, then it's just a little bit wider, right? And then it might be a little bit easier to get it over your ankles. So those are my sort of tips for trying to get out faster.
Just one observation Ed mentioned there quickly. I obviously always wear a tri-suit, but I normally race with calf sleeves and arm guards as well. And I wear them under my wetsuit and put the wetsuit on over the top. And I went for I was at Eagleman this weekend just gone. I went for a swim just in my Speedos underneath the wetsuit, and I actually thought my wetsuit was broken and had a tear in it because I didn't realize how much water actually gets inside. And so I had virtually nothing on underneath except the Speedo, and I'm like, what is going on? Why am I so wet? I'd never noticed this in 3 years. Like I'd never actually worn anything like that. Okay, I thought just for lighthearted, we're finished. These are top newbie try mistakes. I found like 20 of these, so I thought I'm just going to put forward 5 each time and see who's guilty, both new and older members. The first one is wearing underwear under your tri-suit or cycle shorts. Anybody guilty of that?
I'll say the first time I went cycling, I think I did that. And then somebody was like, dude, what are you doing? I was like, okay, never again.
Yeah, Jersey Genesis was my wife's first triathlon, and right up until I think the morning before, she didn't believe me that she thought I was joking, and that she finally had to just accept that I'll go with what he says. But
I won't admit there wasn't a time that before tri shorts were prevalent that I showed up at a race just wearing whatever, but most likely it was like a Speedo swimsuit was my base and not underwear. So
yeah. The second one is, and this is probably a lot more common on the bike, not knowing how to change a tire.
Oh,
One, Elise, yeah.
I'm
Joy as well.
I'm getting tubeless. Just in case.
Yeah, I changed to tubeless, and I tell anybody that listens like it's the best thing ever. But then with Eagleman, I was having an issue right before I was going to drive down there where they just weren't holding air, and they're far more complicated to diagnose those sort of problems with than a tube was. In the end, I just had to give it a massive blast of air to reseat the tire. But yeah, that's I figured out how to change a tire after I did Bicycle Club of Philadelphia, had their annual 100-mile ride, and I was stuck in the middle of nowhere for about 2 hours waiting for somebody to come past to change my tire for me. So I thought I need to learn.
They have help on the course if that were to happen.
They do. It's called SAG, but depending on what race you're doing, Ironman branded races, I've noticed, tend to be a bit more better, like in terms of having SAG. Say DQ sprints, I don't think I've ever seen them. I don't know if they actually exist. But that said, even if you'd be very lucky to get help at an Ironman within say 30 minutes. 30 to 40 minutes.
The time is you might get to finish a race, but if you're going for time, you've lost it. So you know, and the other thing is it's, if you have all your stuff at least, you know, then, you know, you could, perhaps someone would even help you. You just got to have all your stuff, right? If you have it all and you're sort of struggling with it, someone might help you. But
just have it gear.
you can't count on anyone else to give you what you need. That's the one thing. And then if the SAG people show up, they'll try to help you if they can, get you going. But they, I think if you had like a ripped tire, they'd be like, okay, well, you can buy a tire, but you know, they're not. Like, I had a derailleur issue on a race, and I was done. I had to walk my bike back to transition. In 10 years of doing this, I think I had a flat. I've only had one flat in a race. I shouldn't have said it out loud, but but I did.
You
but
far between it feels.
in good karma space, though, I have given. I had in Eagle Man one time. I actually stopped and gave someone a CO2 cartridge who clearly was racing, and they were in a panic that they had let all their CO2 out. And I gave them the CO2 bottle, and I went on, and I think maybe 10 minutes later they passed me going like 25 miles an hour. So I felt like I maybe bought some good karma for a long time by stopping and helping someone.
Yeah, the only other thing I'll add to that is often the SAG people at events are volunteers. They're not pro bike mechanics, so they often just have very basic rudimentary skills as well.
Yeah, they don't know either themselves.
Yeah, so you've taken a huge risk relying on the SAG.
So, you know, you might hit something in a race, but I think the other thing is just to be really check your bike the week leading up and make sure you don't have any sort of like, you know, glass in your tire, like really sort of observe it. If you've been having slow leaks and you keep having to add, you know, don't address it early. Don't wait till race day and hope it's good. But don't do it like the night before the race either. So you make sure you don't get any surprises when you do it. Like make sure you do it and ride at least once beforehand. But yeah, if it happens in the race, if you know how to do it, you just got to take your time and just get through it and go back to your race. And don't get too hung up on your time, because if you hurry, you'll may cause another flat when you're putting it back together. So.
Yeah. The third one is like wearing your tri-suit to the indoor swimming pool.
I've seen that a few times at the course.
I can understand if you're wearing your tri-suit to the outdoor open water swim, but indoor swimming pool, I'm guessing you're training for an outdoor swim, but you don't have access to an outdoor swim. So I can kind of accept that one a little bit more than some of the others, I guess.
You have to swim in it somewhere, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Number four is a very common one.
Weirdo if I try that next week, because that was my plan. My race is
So I would say if
should.
that's the only place you have to try it, just try it, right? The reason you don't really want to do it all the time is that the chlorine stuff wears out stuff, right? You don't want to take your expensive race suit and waste its waste its longevity in the pool. So, but if you got to practice it once to get used to it and getting feeling comfortable in it, swimming, do it in the pool. Don't worry about everyone else thinks.
and I should just emphasize, I got these off the internet. These are not my personal. It's not my personal list. Okay, number 4 is leaving your helmet on in transition.
I just did that.
Yeah, this is actually it sounds silly, but it's incredibly common.
Just did it at the DQ race. Literally.
Genesis.
Yeah. No, that was it. Yeah.
Or was it Stafford? Stafford was the second one.
It was Genesis. I did it, and she was like, she looked at me because she told me, and she was like, she got me like as I was going out of transition. I like left it on the table. I came back and got it, but.
And conversely, a kind of a new rookie mistake that can cost you the race is taking your helmet off too early. So you dismount your bike and you're pushing your bike and you take the helmet off. You can get DQ'd for that. If you're still in control of your bike at any point, you must have your helmet on.
By the way, I've seen people have their helmet on backwards.
Yeah.
Even someone who had like a aero helmet.
Yeah.
And put it on backwards. So if you volunteer, you will see all these things happen because there's such a large number of people there. Somebody's doing, and all these things have happened in a race.
Yeah, and the last one is doing a triathlon and having no idea of the course. I was guilty of this at Medford Lakes last year. So I just thought I'm just going to turn up. I'm going to and do the race. So I didn't bother looking at anything to do with this race. And the race was because it's a sprint race. So I tend not to look at my watch, especially on the bike. You just ride as hard as I can from start to finish. And so it's a 2-lap race. So I got on the bike and I hammered it around for 1 lap, and I went into transition, and I'm like, oh, I'm the first one in transition, and where is everybody? And I'm getting shouted at, one more, do 1 more lap. I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, it's 2-lap race. I'm like, oh crap. So I quickly go back out and do another lap. And on a short course, it's not as much of a big deal, I don't think. If you're doing longer stuff like 70.3 Ironman, you can get into situations where you might be riding by yourself for long periods and relying on people telling you go left, go right, and so on. So
I got lost out by it was like Chester County. It was like some 56-mile race that was like really, really hilly out by Victory. And I got lost, and I was like, I don't know where I am. I had to like pull up my phone, and it wasn't like a timed race or anything, but
yeah. And I actually, my first sprint I ever did was DQ at Jenkintown. And if you know the Jenkintown course is this really sharp hairpin that you go out, do the sharp hairpin and head back. And 5 or 6 cyclists didn't do the sharp hairpin and just turned right and kept going down the wrong street. And a car had to chase after them and round them up and get them to come back. But that was kind of the fault of not having enough volunteers, because no one was there to tell people to turn. You just had to know the course. Anyway, that's all we've got for this week. Does anyone want to add anything? Right. Thanks very much for taking the time to join me. I'm going to kind of summarize these points into an email next week, probably on Tuesday, and I'll send it out to everybody. But I really appreciate everybody taking the time to jump on. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for hosting. Safe travels.
See you next week.
See everyone.
Bye, guys.